Hey everyone, Pastor Jimmy at Mount Pleasant Baptist Church. Just want to start our study on the characteristics of God in the book of Genesis. Before we start this study, hit pause on the video, grab your Bible, go and read Genesis chapter 1, and then once you do that, come back and we'll pick up with a Bible study then. All right, I hope you've had a chance to read Genesis chapter 1, and now that you've read that, I want to show you just a few characteristics that we can learn in Genesis about God and a few things we can learn from the first chapter of Genesis. The first thing that we understand in Genesis 1:1 is that God is the creator. He is creator of everything. It's important that we understand this. It's important that we know that God is the one who created all that we see, all that we know. It didn't happen by chance. It happened from Him. We must believe that God is creator of everything before we can believe anything else that happens in the Bible. If we can't get past Genesis 1:1, if we can't get past Genesis chapter 1 and understand that God is creator, then we might as well stop reading the Bible. The rest of it will not make much sense to us, and the things that we see and we learn in the book of Genesis will not make a whole lot of sense. So number one, God characteristic is He is the creator. His creation also shows us today that He is an intelligent creator. He created everything with a design and with a purpose. There is no accident in the universe. There is nothing that God created that was by chance. Everything was created by Him and for Him and through Him, as the Bible tells us. And so, characteristic number one, God is creator. He took all that there was in the world, which was nothing at the time, and He created all that we see in the world today. As someone put it, He is the director of a perfect symphony. The second thing we can learn in chapter 1 is that God is eternal. God is eternal. What does that mean? That means that God has always been. Don't try to think about it too much. Don't try to figure it out. Every time I do that, I end up with a headache, it seems like. But remember, think, God is eternal. In the beginning was God. Psalm 93:2 tells us this: your throne is established from of old. You are from everlasting. God is uncreated. He is eternal. He is the only one without beginning or without end. Psalm 90 verses 1 and 2 says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you have formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. One person said, J. Edwin Orr said, God is the only infinite, eternal, and unchangeable spirit, the perfect being in whom all things begin, continue, and end. You see, God is the one. He didn't have to have anything else to create this world. He created it from nothing. As we look at man, we understand that man had a beginning, man will have an end. But God is eternal. God did not have a beginning. God will not have an end. He will always be. And so Genesis chapter 1 shows us that God is not only our creator, He is our eternal creator that has always been. The next thing that we can see is that God is perfect. Every time God created something, we see that it was good. It was perfect. When God created this world, when He created everything, it was perfect. Creation was perfect. No blemishes originally when God created it. He took the chaos in the world. He took the chaos of the void and He made it perfect on the first day. And then one of the last things we see is this characteristic in Genesis chapter 1 is the characteristic of God being a Trinity, 3 in 1. If you look at some of the verses, you see Him say words like, let us make in our image, in our likeness. The repeated use of the plural words, let us and our likeness, shows us that there is one God in three persons, this Trinity that you hear a lot about. And it also shows us that we were created in His image. An understanding of who man is begins with the knowledge that we were made in the image of God. I know this was a quick video. These aren't all the characteristics, but these are kind of some highlights on these characteristics, and these are some things that we can learn about God. But we must understand these things before we can begin or continue our journey throughout the rest of the Bible. Genesis, some people look at it as just a creation story, but it is also the story that shows us God's plan for everything in the world. And it all starts in Genesis 1 by understanding who God is, who God was, and who God will always be. So I encourage you, continue reading the book of Genesis. Next video that I post up, we'll go through some characteristics in Genesis chapter 2. And then join us Wednesday night. We'll have a Facebook post on Wednesday night around 7 with a longer Bible study about Genesis and some of the characteristics of God.